Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Norsonic user group session. So today, in this afternoon, we will be covering the NOR145 and NOR150 for advanced users. So in this session today will be myself, Francine McGann, and my colleague, Anthony Brown. If you need any support after the session today, please feel free to send your inquiry to our support line at support@campbell-associates.co.uk, and our support team will get back to you as soon as they can. So if you have your meters with you today, 145 or 150, please you can start powering on your meter. That will start the training very soon. So this session, as I said, is for advanced measurements.
Not the basic that it says on the screen.
Yes, not the basic one. The basic was this morning. Okay, so now it's a good time for you to check that your meter has enough battery for the training, or it's always a good idea just to run into the mains. So please make sure you power on the meter and you're running on the mains. We have here a quick video showing you how to set up your NNR kit. I will paste this link in the Q&A session. So if you need to go through how to set up your kit prior to the training, you have a few minutes to do that. So perhaps, Anthony, if you could paste this link there while I'm going through this information.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anthony. Okay, so I believe you have used the Norsonic 145 or 150 before, but it's always good just to remind you about a few features of the sound level meter. So you probably know that this meter has a very nice color touch screen that works pretty much like a smartphone. So you can use the touch screen to load applications. So when you first turn on your meter, you should have the application screen where you have a few applications that it's either you created or one of your colleagues. So to load all of the settings, we just need to tap the app and we are ready to go. So it's very easy and very straightforward. These meters also work with a rechargeable lithium battery, so the battery should last up to 8 hours. But every time it's plugged into the mains, it will recharge the batteries just like what we do with our smartphones. Okay, Anthony, maybe if you can go back. Okay, yeah, can go to the next one. It's very nice with the 145 because you can play back the audio recordings. So when you are running an audio recording, you see on the screen that the option Note is highlighted in orange. If you click on that option, it will open a small menu. And then on the top of the menu, you have the option there saying Recording, which will have a number on the left-hand side. This number will indicate how many audio recordings you have saved during that measurement. And once you stop your measurement, if you go back to Note, instead of audio recording, you have the option saying Playback. If you click on Playback, the sound level meter will open a list with all, in this case, all of the 14 audio recordings. And if you have your headphones set with you that you can plug into your sound level meter, you are able to play back the audio recordings when you are on site. So I'm not sure if you knew that you could do that with your meter, but this is a very nice feature when you are out on site. For the training today, we will need the sound level meter and a field calibrator. So please get your kit ready. Talking about the field calibrator, I think it's always good to remind you about the calibration of your kit. So the sound level meter needs to be calibrated every 2 years, okay? So if you have your meter there with you, if you turn it around, on the back of the sound level meter, you should be able to see a label very similar to the one that we have here on the slide. That will tell you when your meter is due for calibration, okay? So the sound level meter is every 2 years. So please have a look to see if the calibration is due soon. And in terms of your field calibrator, then it needs to be calibrated every year. Okay, so the field calibrator should also have a label that will tell you when the equipment is due for calibration. And for this session today, we've got an offer for you. So we are offering you free collection and returns on calibration. So this offer is valid until the 31st of January 2023. So the slide there is saying 2022, no, but it's 2023. This offer is valid for orders over £300, and if it's for mainland UK only. So to use this offer, we need to refer to the code free delivery 2023. Okay, and if you'd like to request a collection of your kit for calibration, you can use our website. So Anthony, if you change to the next slide, please. If you go to our website, and then you are able to go to calibration, and then there is an option there called collection return form. If you click on that, it will open the form that you can fill in to request this service, and then you can refer to the code free delivery 2023 to make use of this offer. Okay. So we'll add information about this offer onto the Q&A session. So if you look on the top right side of your screen, you should be able to see the icon for the Q&A. If you click on that, then you'll be able to see the live event chat. And during this training today, you can submit your questions and have a look at any announcement that we will put in there. Okay, so feel free to use this feature throughout the training today, and we'll either answer your question in the chat, or we'll just speak out loud if we think that is a question that more people will have.
I think Helen is going to put in the chat now the link for the calibration collection form for you.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think that's it, Fran. I'll start the training off now with the 145, just a little bit about the measurement process, what we're going to do today. So the basic session was this morning, so that should have covered setting up the meter generally, but I will run through some of those settings here today to make sure we're all up to speed for anyone that wasn't able to join. So I'll try and take you through step by step the settings on the meter. You can see I've got my sound level meter on the right hand side. So I will show sort of two screens. The right hand side is the one to pay attention to. This is the sound level meter that I have live on the screen now with my apps here. So if you do have any questions, as Fran says, just pass them, put them into the question and answer, and Fran will help out. So I think it's we've got the University Salford guidance here for low frequency noise. So I know low frequency noise is a topic that we cover often, including BS 142. So I'm just going to let you know about the sort of the capability of the sound level meter for those people that are looking to carry out a low frequency measurement. So if you are looking to carry out this low frequency measurement, as I said, you can refer to the Salford University guidance. They have a procedure for the assessment of low frequency noise. And the things that we know about low frequency is it's very difficult to solve. It's hard to work out where that sound's coming from because the low frequency waves are so big, so it's really hard to determine actually where they're coming from. Not everybody can hear them. Some people hear them more than others. And certainly once you sort of tune into low frequency, the complaint sort of the likelihood of them complaining rises because they sort of tune into that. We need to look at the kind of equipment that we're using. Is it capable of measuring low frequency? And is your speaker or headphones able to play back that sound? So by using the sound level meter, we can actually visualize low frequency frequency content on the meter, whereas with speakers you may not be able to play that back very easily. So we'll need a sound level meter to do this. It can be the 140 or the 145, and what we should be able to see on either meters, or it could be the 150 as well, we should be able to show you how to display a frequency display like here. This will be well, this screen here is actually from the NOR review software, so I'll show you that today. But we can also show you how to do this on the sound level meter if you're looking to go out into the field at an industrial site or a construction site or on a road site and to see this data on your meter. One of the other things that can happen is you can, with low frequency, sometimes you'll find that you can only hear it at a certain position. You might have a standing wave. So yeah, moving the microphone position will be really important with a low frequency measurement. And the kinds of sources for low frequency noise are heat pumps, coolers. You've got heaters. We'll have a lot of those on at the moment. We'll have motorway traffic. We can have aircraft traffic, railway. You can have garden pumps, cookers. So there are lots of things that generate low frequency noise, even a fridge, freezer. It could be something transferring that sound through another object, and then it, shall we say, emulates the sound somewhere else within the room. So it could be simply moving those or getting some kind of vibration isolation, yeah, whatever it may be. So the sulfur guidance here is a really good document to helping you carry out this measurement, because it is quite problematic. It covers the industrial and mechanical low frequency noise. In the document it mentions about cases for low frequency bands being in the 40 and 50 hertz area. So what we have done is we've written an application note at Campbell Associates, which links you to this document, and we've extracted some information there that you can have a read to help you carry out this measurement. We can use NOR Review to help us as well. So in there we can look at the level versus time, we can plot the different frequencies, and we can see this as a bar graph in the bottom as well. And then once you've identified the frequencies, you can look at there's a table mentioned in the guidance where you can work out what kind of penalties may be applied. So the standard measurement range for mentioned in the document is a range down to 10 hertz. Good news is that our meter can actually measure down to 6.3 hertz. So you're fine on there with that microphone. We can actually measure even lower than the microphone's capability. So the microphone cuts off at 6.3, but the sound level meter itself can actually log down to 0.4 hertz. So you could actually attach a vibration accelerometer to measure low frequency too. It mentions in there a logging interval of 1 second. For BS4142, we actually want to go lower. So we want to go down to 25 milliseconds, or between 10 and 25. So again, good news, the sound level meter can do it, and we can actually go even faster down to 5 milliseconds. But yeah, this would be quite extreme. We don't need to do this. So today I'll show you how to change these settings in the meter. So here's the specs on a standard microphone. So we have a really good dynamic range on the microphone. We can measure up to very high sound pressure levels, so up to 146. The sound level meter can as well, and we can go right down to about 15 decibels. So anything lower than that, then you would need maybe a low noise microphone and things like this. So the microphone that we have is it's perfect for NNR and industrial noise sources. As you can see on the right, we've got some applications here. So today I'm going to show you how to create these apps, and then you can name one of these Salford University if you want. You could name it low frequency noise or BS142. So this is a microphone and the preamp. This is the same one that you have on a 145 or a 150. The preamp is slightly different, but yeah, and the mics are slightly different, but they're all, the performance capability of them is the same. So just something to bear in mind, that if you are looking to undertake low frequency noise measurements, especially according to the Salford guidance, it would be wise to check the microphone diaphragm for any damage. So the diaphragm is this part here. It's a very thin piece of metal. It's thinner than your hair, and as the sound pressure hits that, it moves up and down and it sends a voltage, the signal down, so that we can measure the sound levels. Now, if that diaphragm is damaged, so this one's got a hole in it, and here's a picture of the microphone exposed, so the grid is off here. You can see around the edges we've got some damage, we've got some dirt, we've got a dent here, which may be a hole. What can happen is the sound wave can pass through that hole, especially low frequency, and then what you do, you get a sound pressure wave hit back at the diaphragm, and it causes a distortion or an inaccuracy in the measurement. So to visually inspect it is really important. You can do that under a microphone, magnifying glass, or you can send this in for calibration. So this microphone here that was damaged, we carried out a measurement on what we could see here is anything below 100 hertz, there was a drop off in the sound levels. So this microphone is not fit for doing a low frequency measurement. The actual guidance says that it should be, or the reference document for that microphone says it should be flatlined pretty much thereabouts across here. So we should run a test with that microphone to make sure it works. Now, in a normal calibration, the standard says you only need to calibrate down to 100 Hertz. Therefore, no one actually calibrates any lower than 100 Hertz. So if you are looking to carry out these measurements, or someone else has submitted a report off a low frequency measurement, maybe you should be checking to see have they had the microphone calibrated for low frequency, because it's not included in the normal calibration process. It's not a requirement from the class 1 standard. So is there any actual certainty that that microphone was working? So one way you can check is to check under a magnifying glass. Hopefully you'll be able to see it with a naked eye. This is not going to guarantee that there isn't a problem, but it's one way of checking that. So just check the diaphragm. Every time it comes in for calibration, we do a visual inspection and we clean the diaphragm as well. So yeah, this is one way of checking it, but it's not going to be as reliable as a calibration. You may think, well, can't I just use a calibrator, one of my calibrators in the box? Well, to check if this has a problem. Unfortunately, it wouldn't work because they calibrate at a higher frequency, so they calibrate at 1000 Hertz. So anything below there, down to 100, you would not detect. So yeah, unfortunately, this won't work. Even if you use a 250 Hertz calibrator, again, it wouldn't work. You would calibrate to 250, it looks good, but unfortunately, you're not able to see this. Another thing just to check on your microphones, so maybe have you look at your microphone and preamp now. On the bottom there should be a little hole underneath the label here where it says Norsonic, and we just need to make sure that this breather hole is not covered by any label. So this happens sometimes from other calibration labs. We've seen people put labels over there, or they put the name of the meter, they stick it over the top. If you do that, the microphone no longer works properly because this is all sealed. So when the air needs to travel down the end of this preamp to the end here, and then it releases this pressure through this hole. So this is NOR review. So today I'm going to show you how to plot those frequencies that we measure. So we can pick any frequency from the meter. It can be plotted here. We could plot multiple frequencies, and then we can have a look at this bar chart below, and then we can look for any dominant bands, and we can see in this table here, we can compare to see if we have an issue with low frequency noise. So here's a plot here with 100 Hertz. So that's the green line, and then the red line is our average. We've got an audio recording here that we can listen to, and you can also see the frequency band data in the table on the right hand side as well. Okay, so let's get started. There will be a break at around about 3 o'clock. So we'll now start with the settings. So what I would like you all to do on your sound level meter is, of course, hopefully it's turned on. You may be at this level versus time screen here. So if you are, or if you're not, then hopefully you can get to this point by just pressing the X key until you get back to the start here. Okay, so hopefully everybody has done that. So if you press the setup key here, and then go to applications at the bottom, then it should bring up this applications menu. The settings will be the same for the 150 as well. Now, while I'm here, if anyone wants this screen to appear as a default screen when they turn on the meter, just make sure this button at the bottom here says hide. So this button here just needs to say hide. Okay, great. So go into the application called environmental in the top right hand side. And in this list, you need to look for the environmental application. So it should be in the top under standard setups, and then you should have environmental. So I'd like you just to load in this setting here, because this defaults our sound level meter to the settings we would like. Okay, so once you're here, you should see a summary of the measurement data. Should tell you how long the measurement's going to run for. And if you've if you have the third octave bands enabled. Don't worry, we can change this today, and this will be set as you need. And then you just need to press the tick key to enable this. Okay, Fran, I believe this is the part where there's this part here. I thought there was a part where it would show you the meter in this guide. Maybe it's a bit further. Okay, so now we've got our level versus time screen up on here. There is a view key. So if you press this button here on the bottom of the keypad, this should allow you to switch between the different views in the meter. So as I said, today I'm going to help you see this graph here, this frequency display. And this will help you with your low frequency noise. You can press the view key again. You should get to this screen here, which is the sound pressure level at the moment being displayed. We can get the meter to show the L90 and the average if we want. So we'll show you this a bit later. And if you press the view key again, eventually you'll get back to the measurement screen. So the view key, if you keep pressing it, eventually it will cycle back round. Okay, hopefully everyone is with me. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Okay, so let's have a look at the settings. So we're going to start with the measurement settings. So you need to go into the setup menu by pressing the setup key, which is next to the arrows on the keypad. Okay, once you're in the setup menu, it should say at the top of the screen. Now, what you will notice on the screen is above the setup label, there's an LED on top of your meter. At the moment, mine is blue, which is a good idea. If this is green, it means you have a measurement running. So you won't be able to change any of these settings. So perhaps there may be a couple of users in the meter right now that have these options grayed out. So if you have these grayed out, all you need to do is to press the X key at the bottom of the screen and go back. You've probably got a measurement running, so just make sure that you press the stop key so that this green light turns to blue. If yours is blue already, you're okay. So stop the measurement, and when you can see the measurement in there, just clear the measurement by pressing the X key on the bottom. So this won't delete the measurement, it will just clear what's on the screen, and then you should have a blue light, and it should look just like my sound level meter now. So if you can just double check that you've done that. Okay, so we'll go back into setup now, and we're back into the setup menu. I've got a blue light, and now I can change the settings. So we'll go into measurement. And in the measurement screen, it should say measurement at the top, we can then change all our settings. So the one that we're looking to change is the global and the profile time. Now on the 150, it may just say global and then profile time underneath. So don't worry, just tap into whatever you've got. We just need to go into global. On the 145, you'll need to tap again to go into global time. Okay, so set this duration as you need. So in the sulfur guidance, maybe it's set to an hour for the measurement. For BS142, it could be an hour or 15 minutes. If you're just doing maybe a long-term environmental measurement, you're going to leave it out for a week, then set this to 1 week. And this could be the same for NNR as well. Now we have lots of memory on the 145 and the 150. You can obviously put in quite a big memory card, so it should not be a problem. So I'm going to set my meter just to 1 hour to today. You just need to decide right now how you would like to default this app. You could always change these settings later or create extra apps for different jobs. So I'm going to start with an hour today. Okay, great. Once you've set that global time, it should be summarized here. So I have 0 days, 1 hour, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. I'm now going to set the profile A. This could be just the profile on some meters, but we're looking for the profile A. This is the resolution. So how often do you want the meter to log? So if I press profile A, we should be able to change the interval here. So sulfur guidance, it suggests 1 second. You can actually go lower. So for BS142, set the seconds to 0. and then set the milliseconds to 25 milliseconds if we're looking at doing the BS142 impulse assessment. Okay, I'm not looking to go to that extreme today. I'm just carrying out a general low frequency noise measurement. So I'm going to go with the 1 second. Now what you'll see is the ticks and the crosses on the bottom of the screen. So press the tick or the cross to go to accept the change, or X to decline the change. Okay, hopefully everybody is still with me. You've got the profile B underneath. So you don't need to worry about this one or the profile moving, but these will become particularly handy where you're looking to carry out a 15-minute average as well as the 1 second login. So where we tend to use this is perhaps for a music festival. We want to collect the 1 second values throughout the day, but we also want to get a 15-minute average. You could use this for construction noise as well. You could simply tap on here and change the value. You could set this to 1 hour if you wanted to. And then you can also collect the profile moving, which is a 15-minute rolling average, which can be used for managing music festivals. So it gives us a window that continuously moves over the period that I set, so the 15 minutes, and it consistently shows you the LAEQ for that 15-minute period at any given time. It is not synchronized to the hour or the quarter past, the half past, and so on. Okay, so once you're happy with those changes, just press the tick key on the bottom, and then it should summarize those settings in this window here. Okay, great. So hopefully if you're on the 150 and you have the profile time underneath here, you managed to work that out. So your profile time may just be below here, above the time waitings. Just change that quickly to whatever you need there. Okay, so hopefully everybody's got that. We're going to go on to the frequency settings now. So frequency settings is still in the measurement settings. We can tap on the frequency settings here. And based on this app that we loaded in earlier, this one does already have the frequency filters defaulted to on. Now you have frequency weightings on the top. So this one here, we've got our A weighting. I don't think you're going to need your C weighting, so just turn this off. The C weighting is for the human ear for noise at work. So this is where we're looking at protecting our hearing. But you will need the Z weighted network. This is the frequency without any weighting onto it. So it's a linear value. So if you remember the frequency graph, it is that without any weighting to it. So we can emulate what the microphone hears. The A weighting is as a human ear hears. Okay, so make sure you've got the Z on there and then press the tick. So now I have an A and Z in the frequency weightings. I now have the filter set to on. This tick box here you can enable and disable. And then you need to set your bandwidth here. So we'll be looking at third octaves, not octaves. So just set this to third octaves here. Okay, so I can see I have a little bit of a problem here. I have my low frequency limit set to 20 Hertz. So under the Salford guidance, it suggests a minimum frequency limit there of 10 Hertz. So we will need to change this by either using the keypad. So there's a keypad button here, or by using the scroller to change this to 10 Hertz. As I told you, the microphone can actually measure down to 6.3 Hertz. So this may be a good opportunity now to change this to 6.3. The third octaves will still show their values in each band anyway, so it is a good idea just to set this down to the lowest frequency limit. Okay, so now we've done that, we have the upper frequency limit here, which is set to 20,000 Hertz. Generally, most humans can hear up to about 18,000, I would say, is probably the most of most young ears. So let's keep it as that. And then we have the FFT below here and a resolution. Okay, so the FFT, this can be enabled. I'm not going to enable this one right now. but this is something that we could certainly set up another app for. So we could actually create an app on the screen here for FFT, and this would give us then the third octaves and FFT at the same time. So Francine is just going to show you this feature here. Fran, would you like to share your screen, or do you want me to take it from my meter?
Yeah, I think I can take it from your meter. So if you can just go to this slide before this one, the 50. Yeah. So as Anthony mentioned, so under these frequency settings, we can turn on the FFT. So the FFT stands for Fast Fourier Transform, and this function allows us to visualize frequencies over time in more detail and identify the specific frequency calls. So if you don't have this in your sound, don't worry, this is an additional option. So we can send you a quotation to add this to your sound level meter. So if you send us an email to hotline@campbell-associates.co.uk, this
Hey, Fran, I think we lost your signal. Okay, so I'll just continue while Fran's coming back. So what we can see here is the FFT. So we have this green display here. This is showing these as the instantaneous frequencies. So with the FFT, it allows us to actually see a very narrow set band of frequencies. So on my sound level meter here, they're set to 2.9 hertz. So we can see those increments, whereas with third octave bands, you see a much wider range. So you wouldn't be able to see this level of detail. So when you're trying to look at specific frequencies to work out what kind of machine noise this is, this FFT mode will allow you to do this. So what you can see here on the meter is the third octaves on the top. I selected on that third octave band here, 1.25 hertz. And then underneath, you can actually see that I can see the FFT. So I can see a very narrow band of frequencies. So if I can identify that narrow band, so I have at 1094 hertz, I can then go and look for this frequency around the factory. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a machine? So this is a third octave here. So you can see, well, this is, yeah, and maybe a worst case view, but you can see here that frequency band around it, and then you can see the frequencies, the narrow band frequency. So it gives you a lot more detail. We can also plot those frequencies on the 145. So if you were to select one of those third octaves, you can see they're very narrow there, but then you can actually plot this graph like this. So at this 2 kilohertz, you can actually see this sound modulating here. So it's quite easy. We just press the view key and it will change these screens for us. So I will show you this a bit later as well. I think what's quite interesting with FFT is this image here where you're able to see harmonics. So you can see different tones of sounds, because when you have bearings, or if you have any other tones on that machine, it may have multiple motors on it. They will all make their own tone based on their speed. So and this can even change up and down. So FFT allows you to see a lot more. So here's a machine here. This is a kind of machine in a factory. It may be moving back and forth and up and down, and this will be showing this will be given as a frequency sound or output that we want to identify. So we can see there's quite a few tones along here, and it sort of fades off as it goes higher up the frequency range. So for anyone looking for FFT mode, you may have it already. It's quite a new feature. We only released it, I think it was about a year ago on the 145, and it's now released on the 150 as well. It can be added for anyone that's looking to do this. It definitely gives you a lot more help for low frequency noise measurement. So just drop us an email if you'd like to know if you've got it on your meter already, or if you'd like to add this. Okay, so let's jump back onto the meter. We're currently in the frequency display, and I was showing you how to enable the FFT. So yeah, I'm going to actually turn mine on now. I'm changing my mind. I'm going to keep that on there, and then I press the tick on the bottom. So that's now enabled. So you should be able to see that summarized in this option here. Underneath this, we would like to set our percentiles. So I've got the 5, 50 and 95 set. I'd like the L90. So what we can do is just tap on percentiles. and then we can make changes to these settings. So you can adjust them. So for example, if I wanted to change this one at the bottom, so take the bottom one and you want to change that to 99.8, you can actually do that. And then you can press the tick to enable it. We are missing the L90, so we want the 90% percentile, so just enable that one and turn off any others that you don't want. So for example, I would like the L10s, I don't need the L50s. I would like an L90, I don't need the 95. Yeah, and maybe on this occasion, I want the 99.8. It's a simple tick box, you press a tick, and then it should summarize those settings here. Oh, we've got some questions in the chat. Okay, cool. It looks like it's been answered by Fran. Okay, so we're done with the percentiles for now. There are a couple other things that we need to enable. So if we can pop into the functions menu, which is this one here, you'll then see a nice long list of functions. Okay, so this is quite daunting. There are a lot of them. To set this up, the basic thing to do is probably to read the standard and then look for these functions mentioned and then to enable the ones that you need. The columns here, they do represent the different time resolutions. So I'll explain that first. So here we have the G for global. So this letter here is the global. So I set my duration to 1 hour. So this is a 1 hour value for that period. If you set your measurement duration to 7 days, then the G would give you that 7-day average or value here. Okay, so you will need a G with a tick, but you'll also need the PA. So the PA stands for profile A. So this is the resolution. So mine was set to 1 second. So if you do want the LAQ every 1 second, you need to put a tick in the box. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Hopefully you just see maybe this column here, but when you have the extra features, you will see additional columns. So the main ones to set up here are, well, I like to clear all, to be honest. So if you clear all first, it unticks everything. I like to start with the LAEQ. I'm only interested in the G and the PA. In the PB, which is profile B, and the move-in, the P move-in, as I said, this is for music festivals or for getting that extra period. You just need to decide whether you want that. We don't want to collect too much information. We also need to remember the more we collect, the harder the meter needs to work. So we want it to be reliable. So I'm going to take the G and then I'll take maybe the LA peak. You may want your maxes. You've got the LAF SPL. I think this is a really important one under PA. So just make sure this one's ticked. If you do need the maxes as well, then perhaps you should tick this one. You will also need the percentiles. So this is probably the most important point here. Maybe we should write this one in the chat, is that we should actually have the LAN ticked. The LAN is for the percentiles. So if you want that L90, you need to have this one ticked, the LAN. Okay, so we have the level A weighted and then the function next to this. So this is A weighted first. And then as you scroll down the meter, you'll then see the Z weighting. Now, if you remember earlier, I said the Z weighting network is for the linear values. So there's no weighting applied to the frequencies. So this is as the microphone hears the sound, whereas LA is how the humans hear sound, so it's emulating the human ear. But what we know is some humans hear sounds differently, so we should plot the LZ, especially for low frequency. So maybe we want the averages for the low frequency, the LZ EQ, so we can collect that. We can also take the SPL. And you could also, for example, if you're doing high level noise, then you would need to take the peak, LZ peak as well. Okay, so hopefully everybody's still with me. This is the more complex bit of setting up this meter. I think the most important thing then is going to be this LF EQ or LFF SPL. So the L is the level, the little f is the frequency. So little f is frequency. So if you want those third octaves, then you will need to enable the frequencies. The f is for the fast time constant, that's the big F, and then you have the ones that you need here. So we've got LFF SPL, so just make sure this one's enabled. And if you wanted this for the averaging for the frequencies, then you need to enable this one as well. And so you need to do this under PA to make sure that you have the 1 second values. And if you're looking at the maximums, then you need to enable this too. And there's also an option LFN at the bottom. So the LFN at the bottom is for the percentiles for the frequency bands. So there's a lot you can collect on this meter. It's brilliant. It's really powerful. It's like having a PC on your hands. The downside is that there's a lot more settings to remember. But if you ever get stuck or you need a reminder to what these mean, then any of the team can help you. Just drop us an email to support@campbell-associates.co.uk. Okay, so to recap, I have my LFF SPL enabled. I have my LFEQ enabled. This is a tick under the PA. I have my Z weighted values for the SPL and the average. I have my LAEQ for the percentiles. And then I have the SPL for my A weighting and the LAEQ as well. Now, if there are too many values selected, when you press a tick, it will give you a notification. And if it tells you you've got too many options selected, then you'll need to untick some of the extra settings here. So press a tick and we're all good. We don't have any warning. The meter's not gonna overload. So that was a tick key there, and then it should give you the functions here. Okay, I'll just give everybody just 30 seconds to make sure that they've got that all set up now, because I know this one takes a little bit more time. So while you're doing that, I'll just run down my meter screen so you can have a look. Okay, great. Just remember you can pause the video, I believe. I think you can pause, or you can skip through at least at any point. So we'll press a tick here. There will be a recording at the end of the session that you can watch in your own time. We do have PDFs as well, so just wait for the feedback form at the end of the session, fill this in and request the recording or a PDF to help you. Okay, so next we've done our percentiles, we've done our frequencies. So as I said, the LFF SPL was an important one. We now need to look at the storage mode. So I'm going to skip the audio recording next down. I'll come back to that in a moment. Let's have a look at the storage mode. So at the moment, mine is set to synchronized. So once you're in this menu, you should select the most appropriate setting here. So rather than synchronize, you may wish to go with a manual setting. This means that when you press the start key, oh, do I have the menu? There we go. So when you press the start key, the measurement will start, and then you'll need to press the stop key, and then you'll need to save the measurement, and then you'll need to name the file. So the manual one is not my favorite setting here. So I don't often use this one. The one that I normally use is the automatic. So the automatic setting here for the storage, this is basically just for anyone that's unsure. This means that when you've run a measurement and you want to save it to the memory card, this kind of sets that that mode here. So when you set the meter to auto, the meter's going to run for the set duration. So my meter was set for 1 hour. It's going to run for an hour. It's going to stop the measurement at the end of the hour, and it's going to save it automatically. And the file name is going to be saved by the date. If you use the synchronize function, this means it's going to run for the 1 hour, but it's going to synchronize to the hour. Okay, so that if the time now is 15:45, if I was to press a start key now and my meter set to synchronized, the meter will start. It will run just for 15 minutes up to 3 o'clock. It will stop and save that measurement, and it will start a new measurement exactly on the hour. And it will go from 3 until 4, 4 until 5, 5 until 6, and each time it will save an individual 1 hour measurement. It would never start from the quarter to the hour. It always synchronizes itself to the period. So if you were to set it to 15 minutes, then it would work as an hour, quarter past, half past, quarter to, 1 hour, and it would just keep doing the same thing. What you do need to bear in mind is that you will lose just 2 seconds of that data while it's saving that measurement and starting a new one. Okay, the next setting is, so this is the auto, this is how it's explained. So, sorry, this is the synchronized, so this is how it's explained here. So 4 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got the repeat setting. So the repeat setting, if you would start the measurement now at 14:46, if the measurement period in this example is set to 15 minutes, it would now run from 2:45 or 3:45 or whatever it is up to the next 15-minute point, and then it would just keep starting. So it would never align itself. It's always going to be at that time. So this one's okay. It is nicer with the synchronized settings. It just depends on how important that is for your report. So the one that I would default for today is the automatic. Once you've done that, press a tick, and it should now say storage mode auto at the bottom. This can say storage mode repeat, it can say synchronized, it depends on what you're looking to do. Okay. Right, so the next setting here in the measurement menu is the audio recording. So in the audio recording, we can change these settings so that the quality of the sound is good or lower quality. So you have a tick key here, just make sure that it is enabled, and then click on the text where it says audio recording. Okay, so mine's set to quite low quality sound. So at the moment mine's set to 12 kilohertz, which is a little bit like listening to medium wave radio. So it's okay for identifying noises. This would work particularly well where you want to identify maybe language, so people speaking, or perhaps you want to see when a train goes past and you just want to listen to identify, is the sound of the sound that we're capturing, is it a train? We could listen to that recording. The quality is not going to be particularly high, but it's enough to determine if it's a train or a car. For noise nuisance, we would normally go with 48 kilohertz. In general, I would say we've got quite a big memory card. This should be fine. If you're looking at doing a measurement for like a month, then maybe we would drop it down. The resolution, generally, I would always set this as 16-bit because we know that this can work on nearly all computers. It's not a nightmare for IT. If you've got some old computers and you switch this to 24-bit resolution, then yes, you're going to have a problem with trying to play this back because IT haven't enabled it. I do know on most new computers now, Windows 11, 24-bit is compatible and defaulted to be set up. So this shouldn't be too much of an issue. The benefit here is going to be anyone in this training today that's carrying out high level sound measurements. So if you're doing pigeon clay shooting, you want to capture audios, perhaps this is good because it gives you a much wider dynamic range. So when you're using the meter for any kind of measurement, whether that be a lower level sound or a high level sound, you'll have a nice range on the audio recording when you capture that sound, it won't come back distorted or less likely to. So this could be a good option. Now I'd leave that to 16-bit anyway. Anyone that's an advanced user, then maybe you would set that to 24. You have the gain here. So with the gain, this would generally be set at 48 decibels. Now the gain, what this does, it amplifies the sound recording. Okay, it doesn't change the sound levels from the measurement. It only amplifies the audio recording. The reason that we need to do that is because you wouldn't be able to hear the sounds. So we do that 48 decibels for noise nuisance because the sound coming through the wall is generally quite low. It may be between 30 and 40 decibels. So we need to amplify it, shall I say. But when we're out doing an industrial measurement and we're measuring something that's quite noisy, like a machine, the level is going to be around about 70 or 80 decibels. So therefore, we would probably want to drop down the gain so that we don't distort the audio. So we would probably set this at around 24 decibels. Now this is like turn up the volume on your speaker. So you will need to change this and play with it until you get the sweet spot for that measurement. But the next time you do a measurement, you may need to adjust it. Perhaps you're measuring a loud car. Maybe you need to drop down the gain. So play with it wisely. And the advantage is if you have this higher resolution, then yeah, maybe you don't need to mess around with the gain so often. Okay, so is there any way, is there any setting to enable an automatic gain for a wider range of decibel levels? No, unfortunately there isn't. There's no automatic gain on the instrument. Yeah, I don't know why. I think the reason for not having an automatic gain is perhaps it can distort the sound, and we'd like to have a fixed reference for audio recording with our sound level meter, because we know that a lot of customers like to use the reference tone. So if you're able to set a gain to a fixed point, then you can reference the sound level so that when you play it back in court and you calibrate the noise source like the speaker or the headphones, you know exactly what the level should be. So when you have an automatic gain, obviously that goes up and down, so then you influence the audio recording. So yeah, it's something that we'll look into, and I think I might get back to you on that one because it's a good question. Maybe it could be useful in some instances, but yeah, there is a reason I think that we don't have that. So you have the pre-trigger. The pre-trigger is underneath the gain. So let's set the gain next to pre-trigger. I would suggest that you set this to 0 seconds, unless you're using this for NNR, then I'd have the pre-trigger. We wouldn't use the pre-trigger where we're logging at 25 milliseconds because this pre-trigger uses a lot of data, a lot of memory. It works the processor really hard. So generally you can't use it with the audio recording at the same time for industrial measurements. But yeah, you can play with that as and when you need. Most of the time you will not need a pre-trigger on a measurement that you're going out to do. Okay, so once you're happy with those settings, press the tick key and we can then move on to the next slide. Okay, I forgot to mention this, sorry. So while we're on the topic of audio recordings, I mentioned that the sound level meter is going to be really useful for visualizing low frequency noise because we can actually see the frequencies in a data format. We can see this in a bar graph or in a chart. Now, obviously we like to use the audio recordings so we can listen to that sound level. So just bear in mind that your speaker choice is going to be really important for your audio recording. So low frequency noise we can see on big speakers is, yeah, it's pretty good, but you need a massive PA speaker. So this speaker is about 18 inches, as big as a car wheel, and the bigger the speaker, the better it is at producing low frequencies. So therefore, as you make the speaker smaller, you lose this low frequency ability, so it cuts it off. So a very small speaker, this one here, which is a typical speaker, and it's not even that small, maybe about the size of a toaster, I don't know. This one would cut off 80 hertz. Therefore, if you're looking at playing back sounds of low frequency complaints below 100 hertz, this speaker wouldn't be very good. Okay, we also need to watch with our headphones as well, because some headphones, their output at low frequency isn't very good. Or the opposite thing could be is that your headphones or your speakers have bass boosting features to make it pleasurable to listen to, but then you're amplifying that low frequency sound, which may make it sound worse. So something just to bear in mind in your speaker choice. So therefore, looking at the data from the sound level meter is going to be really important. Okay, so we're coming up to 3 o'clock. We're going to look at the markers now, and then we'll take a break. So let's have a look at the marker feature. So I'm done with these measurement settings. We've gone over all our durations and audio recordings. So I'm going to press the tick key on the bottom right. You can change those at any time by going back into measurement. So we're going to skip down past the trigger and we're going to look at the marker. Okay, so if you tap on the marker here, you can see that I've made some markers in my presentation. These markers you can enable or disable yourself. Okay. These markers look like this. So on the screen here, you can see like a green marker here. there is a marker button at the bottom here as well, and this will give you a list of these markers to enable. So what the marker does, it allows you to put that marker anywhere within the measurement as you're measuring on site. So some of the examples I had here was when I hear a tonal noise, I'm going to enable that marker so that it labels that part of the measurement. So when I download it, I can find all the tonal parts without having to spend time listening to the recordings. So if you tap on marker, you can give it a name. So at the top here, we can change this. So if I was to call this one tonal, you can give it a color, you can give it an action. So for anyone using the reference tone, we could enable this here, but we have one here called the recording. I'll try and touch on the reference tone maybe a bit later if I have time. So we've got the recording here. So when I tap on that marker, what will happen is it will marker the measurement in the level versus time, but it'll also record the sound. In marker 2, I will call this one, I don't know, well, my example here is a 10 hertz tone. So when I hear that, I don't know if I will with my hearing, probably not, then we could marker this. Okay, and you can also do the action again. And you can do this for car noise and interruptions, whatever you want to do. So this is a nice little task for a Friday afternoon. Putting human sound here. Okay, and once you've done that, just press the tick on the bottom of the screen to save that. So I'll leave you just to play around with that a moment. So while I press the tick key, I'll show you how this works. So I'll press the start key here to start a measurement. As the measurement is running, we will then be able to press the marker, and then you have the tonal noise here, and this now adds that marker. It also creates the audio recording at the start. Francine showed you this earlier. It shows you how many recordings, if a recording is in progress. So there's a recording in progress because it's orange. And then we can turn on a 10 hertz, we can turn on the human sound, and you can turn those off. And whenever you do that, it then creates this marker. So this marker would appear here, and when you download it into NOR Review, you can see those. It's quite nice. Okay. Right, so it's telling me to save the settings. Let me just see. I'm going to stop that measurement. Right, okay, so I think we should go for a break. Just a quick 5-minute break to grab a coffee. So let's meet back here at 3:05, and then we'll continue with our settings on the sound level meter. Speak to you in a moment. Okay, welcome back everyone. Okay, so we'll finish off some settings on the sound level meter. So I'm going to pop into the setup menu. I'm going to press the setup key here. Okay, so if everybody could do this, that was the setup key. I'll just give you a second. I'm sure there's going to be people running back from the kettle, hearing me, thinking, oh, I better get here. It would be nice if I could spell press the setup key properly on my presentation. Typo. Okay, I'll just leave it on that screen for now. Okay, so we're just going to look at the meter for now. So we're just going to go off topic in the presentation. Okay, so now we're in the setup. I would like to cover some of the other settings here. So I'd like to cover the trigger. So if you tap on trigger here, this is for the settings for the meter, so how it runs when you press the start key. So when you press the start key, you can set how that works. But there's also then events, which is for the hand switch. So when you plug the hand switch in for the resident and they press the hand switch button to enable the audio recording, this part here is for those settings. Okay. So I would like to start now with the manual. So if you click on this manual here, you've got delay underneath. So click on manual. The delay is set to 0 seconds. So if you click on this, you can change it. So what this means is when you press the start key, do you want the measurement to start immediately, or would you like it to count down a few seconds? Okay, so for example, you could set this to 3 seconds. So this will be a countdown. So I'll just tick this and leave it as manual delay 3 seconds. Okay, I'll just show you how that works. So what happens is I press the start key, 3, 2, and now the measurement starts. Now the idea of doing this is that you don't get maybe there might be some interruption and then you don't capture that first part of the sound. Okay, so I'll go back into trigger, I'll go to setup and back to trigger and back into manual, and I'm just going to set that back to 0. So this may be a useful feature for some people, some others it won't be. The reason to show you is because this start button you can see can be adjusted to how it works. So you've got one for manual trigger, there's one for clock trigger. So that means when you press the start key, at what time do you actually want the measurement to start? So if you were to set it to 11 o'clock tonight, when you press the start key, the meter's just going to stagnate, it's going to wait. And then eventually when the time passes 11 o'clock, the measurement will start. Okay, I don't want to use that feature today. This wouldn't be a good idea. We've then got the next full hour. So if we want it to start at 4 o'clock today, after we leave site, we can do this. And then there's ones for external triggers or thresholds, which I wouldn't recommend using at all, unless you want lots of multiple measurements and lots of them. So before we leave today, let's set this to manual trigger. So just make sure that you have a tick next to manual trigger. I don't want your meters not working for the next few weeks. You'll be wondering what the hell have I changed. Okay, so set this to manual delay 0 seconds. Okay, we also have the hand switch. So if you are using this, make sure that it is enabled. Make sure there's a tick in the 0 row. So a tick in the 0 row. Maybe it says recording. If it doesn't, we can change this. So just tap onto here. I can see one problem already. So my external hand switch is set to off. So let's turn that on by pressing the tick key. So this external here is for the hand switch, and I know it's for the hand switch because if I click on external, you can see it's the socket for the hand switch. So we just want to make sure this is set to on. We want to turn off the threshold. So turn the threshold off. Now you can use the external and the threshold together. What this means is when it goes above 75 decibels, then it will capture the audio. So if I was to tap on the threshold, we can change the level here from 75 to any level that you would like. For example, 85 decibels. So if we press the tick, we have a trigger level of 85. When it goes above that, it will then record the sound. based on the LAEQ, the average. This is great. Now, I'm going to press a tick just to save this, okay? So you can see now I have a trigger level LAEQ above 85. Right, can we be more creative with this? Yes, we can. Can we use this for recording train pass by or a washing machine turning on in the middle of the night? Yes, we can. Okay, so what we could do is go into the threshold. I'll leave the level as it is. The threshold above, we'll use this. We can then change the trigger function. Okay, so this is trigger function. There is a function here called LEQ at the moment. This can be changed to any of the three that we would like. I'm going to stay with the LEQ. We have the frequency property below. So under frequency, it's set to A weighting. So this is the A weighted level across the whole frequency spectrum. I would like to look at an individual frequency for the train pass by. I know it's going to generate quite low frequency. When this train passes my house, I can feel it going through my house. It wakes me up. Therefore, I want to capture that. Then rather than wake up in the middle of the night to press the hand switch, I could use this threshold. So when the microphone picks up sound above 50 Hertz, it will then record the sound. And then we can listen back to this and to see if the sound is loud and problematic. When I press the tick, I press the tick again. This is now set to LFEQ rather than LAEQ. The little f is for frequency. You may remember this from earlier in the training. The level frequency equivalent is the average above 85 decibels. And if it does that, then it will record the sound. Now 85 dB is quite high. You know, with a train pass by, maybe at night time, it actually may be 40. So maybe I set it to this. The problem with having it so low is you may get a lot of audio recordings and then you fill in the memory card. But the good thing is for 150 and 145 users, you can limit when this threshold works or when this trigger event, this whole screen works. So there's one under here called time span. So I don't know if you can see that, but this time span, if you enable this, you can set this trigger function to only work between certain hours of the day or night. So we could say that this trigger function only works from 12 o'clock at night until 5 o'clock in the morning. This is the time that it wakes me up. When I do this, it means now, I press this button, that this event only works between this time. Therefore, I will not capture lots of audio recordings. So I believe this will really help you minimize the amount of recordings, saving you time, and it saves filling up the memory card as well. Okay, so I did just skip past a few settings in the middle. So there's one called maximum action time. So this is how long would you like this recording to last? So you could set this to 59 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever you need. Let me just put in a time. Let me say 2 minutes. Okay. And then this minimum duration out, I wouldn't worry about. This is just like the roll off at the end of the recording, and time between events is the time between recordings that there should be where it sort of doesn't record any sound. And then the final thing we have is the recording. So we just need to make sure that this one at the bottom here is ticked. So make sure this is ticked. So external is on for the hand switch. I'm not going to use the threshold. I may use it at some point. Let's keep it off for now. It's already configured, so I can use it later. I've got my action time, I've got my time span. I'm going to turn this one off, and then I've got my recording. Okay, so press the tick and that's saved. Now, some meters may only have the option for 1 second setting. There are some customers that bought the extended feature that allow multiple settings. Then you could set like different frequencies at different times, which would be really useful. So this can certainly be added to meters. So it's deciding whether you need that functionality, but at least just set up the defaults for now, and then you can come back to this and enable them later as and when you're doing that measurement. Okay, so I've got my delay at the top here. Sorry, I've got my manual set here. I've got my recording underneath for the events, and the external is set to on because it says external here, and I've got a tick here. So that's for your hand switch trigger and the audio recording. Okay, so today we've looked at the measurement, we've looked at the trigger. Okay, we had a quick look into marker as well. Next, we have the views, and then I can show you how to save this application. For anyone that's looking to use the reference tone, I will send you a guide on how to configure this. Okay, if I get time at the end and anyone wants me to show you the reference tone, then please pop it in the chat and I'll try and show at the end if we have enough time. Okay, so let's go into views. So I was in the setup menu. So I'm in the setup menu and I go to views. In the views, you can enable multiple views. In noise nuisance, we keep it really limited to just one view. This way, when you press this view key, it always keeps people on that one view. It saves the confusion. Now, if you are an advanced user, then you will like the levels and time. So that's that graph. And you will want the frequency, so the bar graph. So enable these two. Maybe you want one big window of the frequency underneath, so you can change this. And then perhaps you want an SLM view, which is just a number, a big number on the screen, so that when you're out on site, it's very easy to see what the sound level is. So you can just tick this one here. Now, if yours aren't set up like this, just tap onto the menu and change the options as you need. And if you want to go landscape and hold your meter sideways, then you can. A bit weird, but you can do it. Then press the tick. And once you're happy with all the views, press the tick key. And what you should see now is that when you press the view key, those different views will work. And Francine will show you in a moment how the different views that we can have and the possibilities in this sound level meter. Okay, I'll just press the setup key one more time. So I'm back in the setup. We've done in the views. The signal generator, please ignore, this is for building acoustics. We have the memory, which is to discuss next. But before I do that, we do have the input menu at the top. The input menu is really only for customers here that are using an outdoor microphone or an accelerometer. So if you're using one of the two, you're a customer that has those things, then in here it would be possible to select your outdoor microphone. So if you have an outdoor microphone, then you can change the settings here. Okay, they're pre-configured in the meter, ready to go. And we've also got one for an accelerometer. That's for the vibration accelerometer. So if any customers are looking to do this, and they need a bit of help, maybe you've not used your outdoor microphone in a long time, then when the occasion comes, just drop us an email and we can set up a call and we can show you how to set up these settings. Let us know before you go to the job, not when you're at the job, because it's a little bit tricky when you're outside and getting wet. Okay. Finally, the last menu below memory is the instrument menu. So if you tap into the instrument menu here, in this menu, you should make sure that your digital and analog settings are set up for the hand switch. So just tap on digital and analog. So this, let me just go back. I'm just going to make sure that everybody's with me. So in the setup menu, go to instrument, go to digital and analog. And then you need to configure the top one here, this digital output 1. You need to set that to recording S1, or if not, it may just be called recording. I think on the 150 it's recording S1. So just make sure it says recording. Okay, you can ignore all the other settings. So this makes sure that the hand switch works. So digital output 1 recording. Okay, so once you've done that, you've also got the headset, which is the playback for the headphones. Just make sure that is set to playback. You can see there's the connector for that cable. You can even connect a speaker to the meter. And then press the tick key. So the headphone socket on the 145 is on the left hand side. So you just plug in a cable. On the 150 it's on the bottom. If you plug in your headphones, this will allow the sound to be played back. Fran will probably show you this menu in a moment, so you can see how the recordings work. And then you've got the headset volume here as well. So this turns this up and down. Okay, so once you've done that, press a tick to go back. You have communication, which you won't need unless you're using Wi-Fi. You've got reference tone in here, so I can show anyone this a bit later. You've got the power settings. So this one is quite interesting, this power settings. For an industrial measurement, you're probably going to be out and about and you might want to save the battery. So you might want to turn down the brightness of the screen, especially at night because the screen's like really bright. It's a little bit like when you're on your phone, it blinds you out at night. So you can turn down the brightness here. You can also turn on the keypad. So actually there are LEDs in the keypad. I'm pretty sure they're on the 150 as well. So that might be useful. Then you can just see what you're doing. And you can also, if you are running out on mains power, you can turn off things like it doesn't turn off or the backlight stays on. So mine just stays on forever, I think, at the moment, so that I can do this training. So there are some useful features there. In the earlier session, Ben mentioned about changing the instrument name. So mine's called NOR145. You can call yours whatever you need. If you've got multiple, yellow, blue, green, you've got the date and time, and then you've got your language and a number format. So there are a few settings in here to change. Okay, so press the tick and it brings you back to here. Okay, so we're in the setup menu. The final thing now is to save this as an app. Okay, so an application that you can load at a later date. So in the setup, go to memory. And in here, you have this one in the middle called manage setup files. Okay, so just click on this one here. Oh, I think this is in here as well. Yeah, so manage setup files. Tap on manage setup files. You'll then see the setup management window and it will say save measurement setup as. So this actually creates the app that you see on the front screen. So if you click save measurement setup as, you can then enable show setup shortcut. So tick this box here and this shows the app. Now, if you forget to tick this one, you will not see the app. Okay, so make sure this is ticked. Don't worry if you ever forget to do this. When you load up the app next time, this menu will appear and just make sure that you click show setup shortcut. You can protect those apps so they can't be overridden and changed. So this is a good idea, but just remember that you'll never be able to edit it again. So it's not always a good idea. The apps anyway, they always stay the same. And so you can't really overwrite an app unless you give it the same file name, then it would overwrite that app. Okay, so I'm going to give this one a name called low frequency. In my guide there, oh, I can't use the keypad. There we go. In my presentation, I've got ENV Salford. So this is another suggestion. You can call it whatever you need. Mine's just going to be called low frequency. And the idea is that you should just adjust this application each time you go to site, really. Unless you've got it set up for a specific job, then yeah, just tap on the app and away you go. Okay, so press the tick and it's now saved the app. It should say save successfully. And what you're looking for is this application. By the way, you can export these apps for a later date if you ever need them. Okay, so if I press the tick again, this will bring us back to the setup. If you've gone too far, don't worry, just go back from here and press the setup key. Okay, so in the setup menu, you're in applications, or go into applications at the bottom, so click applications. This will bring up the app screen, and what you should have is, oh, excuse me, you should have low frequency here. So I've got one for Salford already created. I've got one for NC rating for buildings. I've got one for environmental. I've got one for acceleration, one for noise nuisance. So you can create as many apps as you need. If you want to create another app called BS142, then all you're going to need to do is load in this app, change all the settings, and then save it as BS142, and then it'll appear here. Okay, so we're going to load in the app that I've just created. So whatever yours was called, mine's called low frequency. If you tap on that, it should give you a summary of the app. So now you can see, right, okay, this app is set for 1 hour. It's going to log up one every second. It's going to log the profile. It's going to do all these things. It's going to log my L90, my 99.8. So you can see, is this app useful? If it is, then press the tick button. If you didn't see the app, then yeah, I need to show you where that is. Okay, so here's my measurement screen. It's all loaded now. I've loaded in the low frequency app and I'm ready to start. Now, if you weren't able to find your app, then go back into Setup, go to Applications, and this time, rather than have a look on the screen because you can't see it, go into Environmental, and then you should see the app in this menu. So I've got one down here called Low Frequency, and you can actually see I've got more apps than are displayed on the front screen, and that's because I hide those apps. So you can click on, say, this app, and this one hasn't got the show setup shortcut. If I put that show setup shortcut, then when I go back to the app screen, it will now appear on as an app. So it will appear maybe at the bottom here, this NNR for 7 days. So that's what you do. So I'll just load in my low frequency one again and press a tick, and we're here. Okay, so the next thing to do is we want to check it all works, and while we're doing that, Francine is going to show you around the sound level meter. So maybe Fran, you can show everybody how to, well, check that setup app, show them how to start a measurement, and then just show them how it looks on the screen and how we can customize the screen to their liking.
Thanks, Anthony. Let me just try to share my screen.
Yeah, we can hear you this time as well, which is good.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. Not sure what happened earlier on. So let me just, okay. So just to double check, Anthony, can you see my presentation?
Yeah, I can indeed.
Yes, all right, okay, so that's good. So hopefully you all now in the measurement screen. So as you can see here on the right-hand side, you just have a live view of my sound level meter. I already loaded my setup. So it might be that my setup look slightly different than the one that you set up with Anthony today, but it's not a problem. We still should be able to follow the training. So now on my screen, I'm in standby mode. How do I know that? The first thing is that I know that the LED light on the top of my screen is blue. When I start a new measurement, this should change to green. And when I'm taking an audio recording, this should be flashing in green. The second visual identification on my screen that can tell me that I'm not running a measurement is that on the bottom of my screen, I have the word start instead of stop. Okay, so to start now, let's just start a new measurement. So if you can all press start, it can either be on your screen or it could be the key on your keypad. Okay, so if you press start, maybe your meter has the countdown, so maybe it show you 3, 2, 1, and then it started a new measurement. Here mine, I don't have the countdown enabled. Now that I started a new measurement, as you can see, LED light now is green. On the top right side of my screen, I can see a timer, okay, which is showing me how long I'm running this measurement for. Underneath that in orange, I just have the date and time. And here my screen is displaying LAQ and LAF max. But you can change this if you want, okay? And I will show you in a minute how you can change that. As you can see on the bottom of my screen, I have a few options there. And now I can see that now it's displaying stop, so I know I'm running a measurement. So first of all, let's try to change the data that is being displayed on this screen. And to do that, there are two different ways. The first one, you can click and hold on your screen, and then it will open a menu that we can use to set up this graph. And the second way would be to just press the tick button on your keypad, okay? So if you press the tick button, it will also open the same menu, okay? So now let's just go through the functions that we can display on this graph. So if you click on functions, as you can see, you can set up different functions. The maximum functions that you can have in view, I think would be 3 or 4. Yeah, so it's 3. You can set up to 3 different functions, okay? Here in this graph that is just level versus time, I like to display only LFEQ. So at this occasion, I would just remove the selection of LFF max. But if you want to select any other function, you just click on select function. You can select if you want to report the profile A or global, and the function you can select if you want, for example, LAQ or LF max, okay? And you can also choose which color these will be displayed on the graph, okay? But for now, in this view, I just want to enable the LFEQ just to make it very simple for me to look at the data. So if I press the green tick to save, so as you can see now on my graph is only a red line going on that I know that is LFEQ. Now if I press the green tick one more time, I can change, for example, the range of my graph. So I can choose to go, the y-axis, I can choose to go 120. So as you can see here on the graph, the level, now it's going from -10 to 110. If I want to change that, I can just click and hold on the graph, go to range again, and bring it back to 100, okay? If you want to change the numbers that are appearing on the right side of your screen, the level, you can just drag it up and down the graph. So just click and drag it up and down to adjust this, okay? Now, when I'm running my measurement, you created probably a few markers with Anthony. If you want to add these markers throughout your measurement, you can just go to marker, and then you should have a few markers you created. I have one called tone. So let's say that I identify that there is a tonal noise. I can just click on the marker. And as you can see on the top of my screen, it's adding a marker in red, which means that when I download data onto NOR Review, I will be able to review this marker one more time. Okay, so this marker will be with my data when I open this with NOR Review. When I want to stop the marker, I just click on the marker that I created. And then if I click on marker again, it will just minimize this menu. Now, if I want to manually activate an audio recording, I can do this by pressing on Note. And then as you can see, the top option there is recording. If I click on there, I'm just taking an audio recording, okay? As you can see, it will probably appear very soon here on my graph on the left side that I'm taking this audio recording. So as you can see here on the top of the graph is also adding a marker there for this audio recording. And when I want to stop, I just press on the recording again and it will stop, okay? So this is very useful when you are doing handheld measurements because you probably won't have the hand trigger there to keep pressing because for handheld measurements, it's probably much easier to use the sound level meter to trigger the audio recording, okay? You can also add some text notes. So if you click on text, you can just type a few notes. And when you download the data, you'll be able to review the notes that you just created. So now if I press note again to minimize this option, now I can go through all of the views that you set up. So as Anthony showed you under the setup menu, we have the option views, and you can set up to 4 different views, okay? I'm not sure how many you have set up at the moment, but if you press the view key on your keypad, okay, we will navigate through the 4 options and go back to the first one. So if I press view one more time, here as you can see, I'm displaying frequency data, okay? In this view, I can also click and hold on the screen to customize the data that I'm displaying here. So for example, if I want to display the A pre-weighted frequency, then I just chose that option. As you can see on the top right side of my screen, I can see that it's A pre-weighted, and now is the A pre-weighted data that I'm displaying. If I click and hold on my screen, if I want to remove that option, I can just click and hold and click on that again. Okay, so I think the nice feature here about the 145 is that you can customize these views the way you want and to display the data that you need when you are out on site. And as Anthony said before, the 145 works pretty much like a computer, so it is extremely user-friendly to use this meter as a handheld meter. Now, in terms of this option here to show the frequency data, I also have the option to just display a table view. So as you can see on the right-hand side of the view key, I have one called table. If I click on that, then I will be able to see a table with all of my results. Okay, and I can highlight one of the lines just by clicking on it, or I can use the arrows on my keypad to navigate between them. Okay, now to go back to the graph view, I just need to press the table key, and then I'm back to the graph. I can also highlight a frequency band on my screen, and if I just click on any part of my screen, I'll be able to highlight one of these frequency bands. And if I use the arrows to the left and the right, I can just navigate between all of the octave bands that are there. Okay, now let's see what is my next view here. So if I just press the view key, this is just the view that displays my sound level meter. So I can just have, for example, the sound pressure level being displayed on my screen. At the moment, I don't have any functions enabled here. So let's do it together. So if I click on hold on my screen, or if I press the green tick on my keypad, I can go to functions. And then in functions, as you can see, you can add different functions to this view. If I go to the first one, I can just select LAEQ, press tick. And if I go to global, I can choose if I want the instantaneous data, which will be profile A, or if I want my global measurement. So here I want to display the instantaneous LAEQ. So I just press the green tick, press the green tick one more time. And now what I need to do, I need to enable this function by pressing this box on the right side and ticking this box. Now, if you're doing environmental measurements, probably it would be quite nice to display L90, just to have your background noise level there as well. So if I click it here and I go to report, I'll go to profile A, press the green tick, under function. Sorry, I think the L90 needs to be the global time. So if you go to report global function, then you can select your L90. Okay, if I press the green tick one more time. Now, as you can see, we changed this function to LA90. I'll just enable this function. Okay, and here later on, you can come back to this view and add all of the functions that you need. So if I press the green tick now, hopefully on my screen now, I should be able to see my data. So at the moment, I'm just displaying all of, okay. So if you use the arrows on your keyboard to the left and to the right, you can navigate through all of the frequency bands. If you keep going right, you just go to the normal LAEQ. Okay, so the A-weighted LEQ. And on the bottom of this graph, I'm also displaying L90 for background noise level. Okay, I can also use my markers or take audio recordings when I'm using any of the different views. I just need to press note and, for example, highlight recording to record audio here as well. So I'll stop this audio recording for now. I'll minimize this menu. Okay. If I press view key one more time, here in this case, my meter has the FFT function, so I'm just displaying the FFT graph. Okay, so if I click on hold on my screen and go to functions, or sorry, not functions, go to zoom, I can also zoom in and zoom out. Okay, so let me just change this to perhaps add a bit of zoom here. And what I will do now, I whistle, but I will mute myself because I don't think anyone wants to listen to me whistling. And then let's see what happens in the graph. Okay, so hopefully you could see while I was whistling that one of the bands was more proeminent and it was around 1400 hertz. To be very honest, my whistle was not very good because it should be normally around 1000. And Anthony is really good in doing that, but I am not. Okay, but this is just to show you how nice it looks, the view of the frequency when you have the FFT function. We usually say that the FFT function is the fingerprint of the sound. So you can use the frequency bands to identify if it is a problem with low frequency noise, for example, but the frequency bands will just show you a range of frequency. But the FFT will actually show you an exact number. So it might be that if you're working with simple low frequency assessments, the third octave bands will be enough for you. But for more complex assessments, industrial assessments, let's say if you're investigating a fan noise, and in a factory there are quite a few fans around, maybe they are emitting noise at different frequencies, and the FFT function will help you to identify which of the fans is the source of the problem. Okay, so just to show you this view here. So if I press the view key one more time, then I will go back to my first view, which was just the normal level versus time, and I'm still running my measurement. Now, if I stop my measurement, okay, and what I will do now, I will just press note just to show you that I can check all of the audio recordings that I took during my measurement. And as you can see, I took 2 audio recordings. If I want to play back these audio recordings, then I have my headphone set attached to my meter. If I press here on playback, it will open a list with your audio recordings. If I click in any of them, then I'll be able to play back them. Okay, so it's very good because you don't need to transfer data to the computer to play back your audio recordings. Okay, so now if I press note one more time to minimize this option. Okay. Now what I can do, I can close my measurement. So to close my measurement, I can press the red cross on my screen. So if I press the red cross, so now I could possibly start a new measurement, but what I want to show you now is how you can rename your measurement. So now if you all press the memory key, so if you go on your keypad and press the memory key, then you can locate the file that you just recorded. And if you click on hold in this file, you have a few options there. So the first one would be to open. The second one would be to rename. So if I press on rename, then I press yes, because I want to rename this file. I can type, let's say, the address. So let's say that I'm at 12 Kings Road. This was where I took my measurement. So it's very easy because when I download, I know which file I'm looking for, okay? So as you can see, I showed you different features today that can help you when you are taking handheld measurements. Possibly you won't even have to take your notepad, because here what you can do, you can change the file name to a different name according to the measurement you are taking. You can use the notes to add any information regarding your measurement, and you can use the markers to identify certain events when you are running your measurement. Now, if I press the green tick, then I just save that information. And then if I want to recall that measurement, I just press memory key and I can reopen my measurement. So it's very easy and straightforward. Let me just have a look if I haven't forgot to show you anything. So I show you the markers, how to run the markers. Showed you how to change the functions you are displaying on your screen, how to use zoom, how to change between the views, how to display the percentiles. Okay, so I think we've covered all of these. Anthony, over to you now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll just share my screen and then we'll take a short break in a moment as well. Just a few more minutes of your time. We'll take the break. So I think that's everything. Screen, I think that's everything there on that sound meter. So if there are any questions about anything that you're unsure of, feel free to put them in the chat now. Then when we take a break, I can have a quick work on them and then we can show you after. And then we're going to look at the software and download them. We have this environmental kit that you have, the 145 and the 150, they can be put in a Peli case, so you may have those already. So there are these tracer batteries here that we supply. They can go into the case, and this will run the meter for over a week to keep it out on site. And then there's a cable that comes out, and then you'd have like an outdoor microphone here. So I know some customers have this with the bird spike. We get a lot of consultants using them for 4-week measurements sometimes, and they're left out in the field. So that's an option there. There are customers that use this for a remote logger as well. We have a lot on racetracks and industry. So rather than them having them in a case, they have them in this white cabinet, which is fixed to a pole or a tripod or a wall. And then they send the data wirelessly. So the 145, they can have the Wi-Fi and the 4G. And then they have like a cloud system where they can see the levels. And then you can have this satellite map and you can see the data. So inside that case, you have like a sound level meter that's hooked on here. So there's like a little camera socket. You can see it on the back of your meter. Actually, if you turn it over, it's got a tripod connector. Actually, these cases have a backup battery. For this one's for an attended monitoring. So it's a case on the wall. They have mains power going to it. It then has a backup battery inside. So that when you lose power on site, it always runs on the battery for the next few days. And then when the power comes back on, it automatically charges it. Some people have solar panels connected to this. There's only an on button inside, and then you've got like your cable and all here. So it's quite nice, nicely set up. And then, as I said, all that data then goes to this Wi-Fi. It's a web-based application. It then shows you the level. We have a couple of military sites that actually have this in real time when they're doing their explosive testing. And when they do that, the bomb or whatever it is goes off, and then they can see the sound in real time to make sure that they're under this peak level. And they have a map, and they can see all these noises. They like these circles here. They kind of explode out as the sound gets louder. So it's quite a cool feature there, but also it's very useful for the site to actually see their data. So we have some sites here with an outdoor microphone that looks like this, a little rocket taken off, and underneath there you then have a microphone. This microphone is an optional extra, and it's one of those microphones that has 8 microphones around its diameter. So this microphone attaches to a normal outdoor microphone. So it's this one here, and it's called a noise compass. The compass is the key word because this microphone acts as a compass. It actually works out where the sound is coming from. So underneath here, you can see this, this circle. So let me just show you a map here. So this is the cloud system. We've got a noise monitor installed at a hospital. We have a busy highway here. We have the lake, and here we have a noise monitor at the hospital. Now you can see there's an arrow. This arrow indicates the direction of the sound. As I said, this microphone has 8 microphones around it, around here. And then as you go through the measurement, I don't know if you can see here, but the arrow gets bigger and smaller and the direction changes. So the sound, the dominant noise source is coming from, not actually from the main road, not right now, it's coming from maybe this industrial site here, I'm not sure. And then for some days, the noise comes around this side, so they could be doing some work here. And at some point, it will be the highway, but it's not a dominant noise source. But what we're able to do is to tell the system, you can see it's shaded red for the road, to ignore any sound propagating from the road. And what we're interested in is getting alerts from sound coming from the green direction and the blue direction so that we can do something about it. So this is the NOR Cloud by Norsonic. It captures events and audio recordings, so you can pop down what the reasons were. So there must be a construction site here. If it's any railway or road noise, there's an audio recording. Some of these monitors have a camera. So this is actually the noise monitor installed on a site. So it's actually a construction site at the hospital. It takes a picture whenever there's a breach of the noise level, and then we can see what's going on site. So perhaps this noise breach here is this red digger driving past at the moment. There may be other pictures in here. So there's another forklift going past here. That could be the reason. So it's quite an interesting system. And then there's a tick box where you can exclude these noise sources if perhaps it shouldn't be contributed to the sound level. So it's quite nice. You can set up different alarms. You get automatic measurements that you can download straight to NOR Review. And you can also get automatic Word reports as well that go into PDF, and yeah, it's quite nice. These come in by email. So there's a report here with that data automatically populated from NOR Cloud. So they've got all tables and yellow markers to show any when they've breached at LDN or the evenings and nights. So it's quite a nice system. So it's one thing that Campbell Associates provide is solutions for noise, vibration and dust monitoring. Back up. That was a NOR Cloud. So we work a lot with industrial sites and consultants and construction sites to help them with automated systems. So the idea is that it helps reduce complaints, that someone on site is doing something about it. They can see it in real time now. They don't need to employ someone to go out and do the measurement, especially if it's already been missed. We can install these remote monitors and it sends the data to the cloud. And we also supply this noise modeling software to help them predict where noise is going to be a problem. So here we have a construction site. They've modeled out the hoarding. They input the data for the different machines, and then they can get this map of the problem noise sources and what they're going to do about it. Other things that we're working on clean or sustainable power solutions for monitoring. We're seeing this requirement grow. People are trying to move away from diesel generators or petrol generators. I'm not sure which fuel it is. But now we have things like hydrogen cell generators, where we have a hydrogen canister, a bit like a barbecue gas bottle, which will power this noise monitor, this dust monitor and vibration monitor. Inside there's a battery that it charges, it supplies the power. This hydrogen cell charges that up. And when these bottles go low, it sends them an alert to tell them. So this bottle will run this system for about a week. The dust monitors we use, there's various ones, one from Aeroqual, which are MCerts for PM10. There's one from Sonitus that does PM10, but also PM2.5. So we have a solution there now that's MCerts, because we can see there's a requirement in London boroughs to measure this. So there are more solutions now in the market to do this. They're mounted on lampposts. They try and get them away from the wall, a meter away. They can go on top of the hoardings. And this is one on a street project. So there's a hydrogen cell here with the cylinders inside. This one will run for a month. And then there are other things that we do as well at Campbell. So we help a lot of schools and universities with air quality monitoring. We supply a lot of schools with these handheld devices. They're quite inexpensive. They have a PM10 sensor, 2.5. They can put this on and it can give you an idea of the levels. So a lot of schools are looking at the traffic flows and the traffic lights and how that impacts around the emissions around schools. So this gives them a nice way of measuring this. The sensor head can be changed, so you just remove it and you can put another one on. So it also measures gases, NO2s, CO2s, VOCs. So really nice piece of equipment. And they're all like battery operated. So this device is battery operated. This vibration monitor is battery operated on these D cells. Back in the day when we first started doing this, most of these monitors lasted a couple of weeks on batteries. But now the technology is getting to a point where it lasts for up to 8 months on just these batteries, and it still sends the data remotely. They're becoming easier to use, and nowadays they just work if you put power to them. There's no settings to configure. This one you just press the start and stop button. So there's no excuse for them getting breaches because they can just start and stop it and then move it. So there's a lot of ways that this will help you, them, us. Because we know the reason why we've got a breach. It's not down to some kind of error, or maybe it is down to a user error. We have a noise monitor here with a battery. There's solar panel options. The hydrogen one is nice because it sort of runs with the solar. You can get into issues with sunlight, so it's not as good, and they're quite bulky. So hydrogen's a good solution. And battery technology is getting better as well. So nowadays they can just take this battery, they can charge it up, they plug it back in, and the noise monitor will work automatically. So there's some of the things that we're doing. We have an online cloud portal like the Norsonic one. So this is another solution where it's a calendar. It shows them the vibration for each day. It shows them the averages. If they breach, it's a red line. They pull in weather data from the nearest weather station. At the moment, it's very foggy. There's a lot of frozen fog. So you tend to see with dust monitors at the moment, you'll get high readings because they start to measure the frozen fog as dust particles, because unfortunately low cost sensors can't dry the air quick enough. So there's lots of indicators here that can help with managing these monitors out on site. They can see if they're on or offline. They get a text or an email if they're on or offline. So it's very easy, and they're all marked up, and this can be included in any reports. It's all mobile friendly. They get audio recordings that they can listen back to. So a typical construction site here, or an industrial site, or a racetrack. Here we have a microphone on the external side of the boundary. We have other sources, other construction sites. We have roads, we have rail. So here's one here. You can see there's another construction site behind. Maybe they want to prove that the noise isn't from them. So what we do now is we can collect this audio, whether that's birds, bikes, impact sounds. We get a list of recordings. Using the new technologies from Amazon Web Service, AWS, it's a little bit like Alexa and Siri. We're able to analyze a recording to work out what kind of sound it is. So if this is a truck, a digger, whatever it may be, we can classify this, and we can see that the contribution from construction sounds is 442. We can look at vehicles, and we can see there's a 33% contribution here, a list of those recordings that we can then listen back to. So it's a really nice system because it will save us time. Rather than having to listen to 1,000 recordings, we can listen to 200 or 400. Still a lot less. Perhaps there won't be that many, but it's certainly categorized to make our lives a lot easier. Especially when you get to these impact sounds or animal sounds, there's very few of those, so we can see them as well, and they can use that to help disprove problems. Okay, so we need to take a break, and then we'll join for the last section here for NOR review. This section will cover the NOR Connect software, so we'll show you how to transfer that measurement, and also we'll look at the frequency display, so we can finish shortly. So we'll take a 5-10 minute break, so we'll get back here for 4:05 to finish the last 25 minutes of the session. See you in a moment. Okay, so welcome back. We're going to cover the last part here for the NOR Review and NOR Connect software. So let's bring up NOR Connect. So in NOR Connect, we have our software here. So NOR Connect is normally in the start menu. You can use the Windows icon and just type NOR Connect. Once you've loaded this, NOR Connect is, for anyone that's unfamiliar with the software, it's a transfer software. It's a little bit like NOR Expert for the 140. So it's a free software that allows you to see the measurement. It makes it easier with the 145 and the 150. So when you input the SD card or you're using a USB, the measurements appear on the right hand side automatically. Now you just need to make sure that this menu here in the top left is set to General Analyzer. Because there are different modes for different applications. So General Analyzer, then you'll have the USB on the right for here for the 145, where it'll say SD card. Then you've got your folder structure. So you can normally set this by navigating to the folders through here. There are different views up here that you can change. So you can change the color. There's different tabs along the top here for connections and XLs and so on. Okay, so I've got my folder. I've got a measurement folder here. You can simply drag and drop the measurement to where you need it. So if there is a different location on your network drive or computer, you should be able to set this up here. Then drag it across, and now this has downloaded. I think that is my most recent measurement. So let me just double check. It looks like. Right, this one here. So sorry, I want that one. So let's drag that across. Yeah, it looks like my date and time is not set properly on my meter. So I've got a measurement here. I can double click this, then I'm able to view it. So you can see, like so, you can even see the average frequency. You can actually change these and log these ones here. So there are other features that you can learn about. It's a measurement. Here we go. Right, I've got that one open. So let me just stop my measurement. Okay, that one. I'm just going to download the most recent measurements. So I've run some examples so I can show you. Okay, so that one's got a couple of audio recordings in. So it's just downloading now. Quite a big one. There we go. So now if I double click this one's a little bit bigger. Here we can see the audio recordings. You can click on this. If you press a space bar, you can actually play it back. And then we can look at the levels here. Now I want to open that measurement. So there is a NOR Review icon. So if you select it and then press NOR Review, it will open. Francine showed earlier in the earlier session that you can actually email or zip these. And if you click this, you can include the recordings. Just bear in mind that the audio recordings may exceed the size that the email browser accepts. And then you can Excel. So let's just go straight into NOR Review. So I do think it's a little bit easier because once you've downloaded, dragged them into here, you press NOR Review, then this opens up straight away. So this is NOR Review. This is the environmental measurement software. Across the top of the screen, you should have these different icons. So you've got the level versus time, the frequency, and so on. You can set these up by right-clicking up here, and then you can enable the view. If you right click up here, you can enable the marker. So you may wish to watch this video later and slow it down. There are videos online that shows you how to do this. There is the workspace, so you do need this. This is on the left-hand side. So if you right click up here and enable the workspace, then you can see the project manager. Okay. So if you were to click the frequency display, this will give you a new tab on the bottom here. And it also creates a folder here that you can select that view. So you can click this one, or you can go down to the tabs at the bottom and do it this way. There is a zoom in and zoom out button up here, so that allows you to go into the measurement and zoom out here. And we are missing one feature called the marker management. So Francine showed earlier these markers along the top for the audio recordings. So they are green. If you right click up here and go to marker management, it will give you a table of those markers. So here they are. You can also go up to marker here and go to marker management, and this also enables that window. There is another view which is called the legend, so that we know what these markers represent. So if you go to view and then legend. So now we're in the legend. You can see the green represents the audio recordings. You can then create some markers. What I would like to do, I think I did it in this measurement, was to create some tones. I hope it was this one and not the one before. Yeah, maybe it was the one before. So I'll show you in another project in a moment. And what I would like to do is to highlight some areas of this measurement. So if I left click and drag my mouse, I could zoom in. I can copy this to an email. I can create a marker. So you may have some recent markers set up, or you can insert a marker and then you can give it a name. So we could say tonal. Sorry, my type. And then you can give this a color. So we can say anything that's blue is a tonal noise. There is an option to exclude sounds from the calculations. For example, you don't want this part here to count towards the LAEQ. You could exclude it. So when you create that marker, the marker now appears in the marker management. You've got the tone, tonal tone, should be tonal sound, and then you've got the time here, 12th of the 12th, the time, the start time, the end time, and the duration. So that's 35 seconds. You've also got your frequency display at the bottom as well. There are some other views across the top of the screen. So there's a 3D view. It looks quite magical. And then there's a summary window. So when you click this, you get the level versus time. You get a table with the third octaves, and you also get the frequency display here. So you can actually right click anywhere in here. You can click generate reports. This will now create a Word document, which will appear in the project manager window as well once it's saved. And then you have this table filled out. So it'll tell you, the measurement period, the sensitivity, which is down here. It's quite small for you, but that says -25, -27.5. You've got a print screen here, and then you've got the table data. And obviously you could do something with that as well. Okay, so let's find a measurement from earlier. Let's close this one. So if I go to file, well, actually, let me just show you how to save it, just for anyone that's unfamiliar. So when you want to save this project, so we have saved it already in NOR145 because we've dragged it across, and this is now dragged it into our computer. That's saved. So this is why I like using NOR145, because if you use the old way, which is opening the measurement directly from the SD card, you are only temporarily opening the file. You're never saving it. So you always have to carry out this procedure here, which is going to file, save as, and then making sure you tick this tick box at the bottom to copy all the files. Now, I would do this anyway, because what I want to do here with this NOR review project is save everything in this window that I've been working on, including the audio recordings, including all the notes. So I want to save this whole thing. So I find somewhere on my computer, I give this a name. So let's say test December for today. I click this create a project create a folder, and save all the files into it. So when I click save, it saves everything, including all the Word documents, the summary, everything in there is saved. Okay, so I'll show you this now. So if I close this project and I go to my desktop, then I will have a folder. Let me just open the folder for you. I won't show you my desktop because it's a mess. So here it is. There's the project file. Here's the report. So the Word documents in here, and then all the measurements, the audio recordings, the measurement files here, and the recordings are in here. Okay, so this was the process using NOR145. Let me show you the process using the SD card directly. So I'll take my SD card out of my meter. I'm going to place it inside my computer. So this is now plugged into the computer. It should now appear as an E drive or a D drive, something like this. So it should appear on the left-hand side in a moment. It's not coming up right now. It works. different memory card reader. Okay. There we go. Oh. Right, so now I've got the SD card here. I'm in my computer, my SD card's here. To get the files off the 145 or 150, through the SD card method, go into NOR measure, go to this folder here called ANT, and then find the recent folder. So I've got the date here, Anthony, today's date and time. So my meter time was correct. You've then got this measurement file here. So you're looking for the one that says measurement.config. Now, if you drag and drop this onto here, it will simply open. So there it is. Yeah, so that's quite straightforward as well. The downside is you've left everything on the SD card, and unless you copy this all off and go to File, Save Project As, click this button here, then this is the only time it will save everything. It will copy everything off the SD card. Okay, so just make sure that you're doing that. If you don't do that, you will lose the data. There is another way of opening the measurement. You can actually do a right click with this one and go to Open With, and you can get IT to set this up so it always opens with NOR Review. This is a nice feature as well. Let's close this project. We've got 15 minutes to cover some more advanced stuff. Let me show you how to plot an L90 in NOR Review. So I will open up a measurement. Okay, you will see here, I'm going back to NOR Connect now. So this is the manager. My meter is connected by the USB. There is the option to download it straight from the SD card this way as well. So you can drag it across here and you can just double click into NOR Review. Let's take some of my measurements from earlier. Let's take the impulsive one. Seconds, I'll open my measurements. Okay, so we have a measurement here. This is a fan. See if we have another one. I want the one with the factory clatter. Okay. Right. Okay. So we have a measurement here. This is a good one to show you. So this one here has a level versus time. You can see there's an exceedance here, here, and here. So this noise is a machine that's running. On the machine, it's a press machine. They drop a sheet of metal onto it, and then you get this bang noise. And people complain about this because it's very impulsive. They can hear it quite far away. So the first thing I said was, can we plot an L90? Not that I would need one for this, but it would be nice to show. So what you can do is go to you can right click on this graph and go to properties. And your sound level meter will appear here. You have the global and the profile. So I mentioned earlier, the profile is the one that shows us our 1 second values or whatever value that you set it to. So for BS4142, this may be 25 millisecond values. You then have your different functions, which are mentioned in the standard. You can pick which functions you would like to plot. So if you would like your LFSPL, you can take the frequency you wish to plot. So if you wanted 100 Hertz, it's possible. You can click add. If you wanted 250, you can add this, and 500 as well. You can also take, we'll take 2 kilohertz as well. You've got the colors here, which you can change. We can change this one from blue to purple because we've already got blue here. We can make the line a bit thicker. And there are other things that you can do. So you can add a calculated function as well. So we said we wanted the L90. So I've got my frequencies. Let's take the L90, which I will do off the LAEQ. So if I take LAEQ, actually I'll do it off an SPL. Sorry, if I do an SPL. Let's get rid of this one. LAF SPL. Okay, so I'm going to take the LAF SPL. I'm going to take the calculated function button. So I'm going to calculate the L90. To take the SPL, I'm going to click percentile. I'm going to say the L90. Once you've got the 90 in here, and you can put any number, if you want the L10, it's possible too. You then just select a calculation interval. So how often do you want the L90 to be plotted? So I'd like it in 10-second increments. I then press OK, and this is now added to this screen. You can adjust it here if you wanted hours, for example. We're going to change the color to, yeah, this gold is all right, actually. We haven't got a color. So if I press OK, we've now got lots of lines. Okay, so the blue line, dark blue line is our profile. This is the average. I've got a key on the right hand side to help us, but you will see here in the cursor, you're able to disable or enable these plotted lines. So what we can do is take the L90 and leave this on. Hopefully this resolution is not too small for everyone. I think it might be. But here we have a line. So we've got a line at 25, it then goes up and it goes down. So this is our L90 plotted. If we want our frequency display, this is possible too. So we can plot this side by side, and then we can see, are there any differences between 250 Hertz, 500 Hertz? Is there any impulsive noise there in the frequencies? So it looks to show it actually at 2 kilohertz. Actually, that's quite interesting. So at 250 Hertz, we don't really get any peak in the level here. It's actually at 2 kilohertz. So it's that pink line there. So if I take this one out and this one out, you can see at 2K, it peaks. So it's very interesting. It's very useful. We can also do this other button up here. We can also click this level versus time and frequency. This would then allow us to click on this graph here and then use our cursor, our mouse, shall we say, to go through and look at the different frequencies. So let's have a look as we get up to this time period here. As it starts to increase, does 2 kilohertz or 3 kilohertz increase? Well, here it does. So 3 kilohertz, it increases and then it drops back down. So is there a tonal issue? Is there an impulsive issue? I don't know. Looks like it. Can we verify this against the standard for the BS142? Yeah, we could. Under calculations, there's an option for the British standard for the BS142 for impulse noise, and there's also the ISO 1996 Part 2 for tonal noise. This will follow the standard and it will mark out where it thinks the noise is impulsive. So if I was to run an impulsive calculation, we can click this box. We then set whether we would like this calculation to calculate over the entire measurement period. So I can say entire here and add entire here. Or we could do it on just an audio recording. So I am actually just going to do this on the audio recording. So just add that to the side, press OK. It then goes through, analyzes the measurement. It works out where the impulsive noise events are. It then marks them out and it opens an Excel sheet. It tells you which noises were prominent, the duration according to standard, and what the penalty should be. Okay, so this audio recording here, this one is the worst. That's quite interesting. And then what it does then is in the marker management at the bottom, which I showed earlier, shows you the impulsive events and the prominence and the penalty. So here we have some problematic noise sources to address. You can actually make comments next to these. This is the comment section. So if you were to press the FN and F2 key, then you can type some additional noise, problem noise to investigate. You can also copy this off, so you can right click and copy and then put this into your Word document as well, or report. There is also a calculation for the tonal noise. So 1996.2. What you need to make sure is that you have an audio recording that's set at this sampling rate. So if you don't, then it gives you a warning, and then we need to do that. What that does, once it gives you the tonal noise, it spits out an Excel sheet again. It shows you those tones and it will tell you which frequencies were dominant. The next thing we can do, we can also create tables of the data. So we do have a number table here, but perhaps you want additional columns. This is the LEQ. Perhaps you want the L90, the L10 in a number format. If you go to calculations and calculations again, you'll be able to select your sound level meter. So we can take our profile, our LAEQ, We could have this as the average, so we can add this. We can take our SPL and run our L10s, so I'll put a percentile of L10. I would also like one for my L90, so I'll add this as a little add button here. Now I've got 2 in the list, so L90, I click add, I've now got my percentiles, and we can also take our peak values as well. If you have the Z-weighted plotted, or log, shall I say, you could have that as well. You've also got your maxes, so we can take our LAF max set. Let's take it at 3 kilohertz. Let's add that as well. Okay, so then when I click next, you pick the interval that you'd like it over. So let's say every 10 seconds, it repeats itself. You can set it for a single event if you need. You add how you would like to do the measurement. So is it over the entire measurement? Yes, it is. And then if you click finish, it will then run a calculation and it spits out a table. So it's taken 10-second samples. It gives us a spectrum for each 10 seconds, which is quite nice. And then you've got your L10, your L90, LAEQ. You have this also for the maximums, and you can see all this data, and you can copy this off by just simply clicking on here and right clicking and copy or send it to a Word document. So you can take all this data as you need. So if I was to generate a Word document, then this will put it into the document here. It's quite nice. Okay. So we'll nip back to the graph here. And we've got a few more minutes left. So let's just have a look in the chat. Has anyone got any questions that I can answer for the software? When going into it comes up. Okay, so someone's got a blank screen. Doesn't take the measurement over. Could this be an issue? Okay, so a tricky question to answer. So let me just try and see if I can help. So it sounds like you've got a blank screen. It comes up with a blank screen. It doesn't take the measurement over. Okay, so maybe you've got, let's close this measurement. So perhaps you haven't got this workspace and you're trying to drag it into this area. So perhaps you might need to right click and get the workspace up. You need this space here to open it. You don't need the IP address in NOR Connect to get the measurement. It could be that we can just download it via the SD card straight away. So what I would like to do is, if you are struggling with this, we will set up a call with you. So drop us an email at the end of the session. There will be a feedback form, so you could do it in there, or email support@campbell-associates.co.uk, and we'll try and do a set up a Teams just to run over and see what that issue is. I'm not really sure. Okay, I can't see any other questions to answer. So there are some useful videos online on YouTube that shows you how to download the measurements from the 140 or the 145, which is also the same as the 150. There are more advanced videos then that show you how to change the settings like I've done today. And there are also PDFs that we have for looking at individual specific scenarios. So there's also an application note, as I said, for the Salford University guidance. There's one for BS 142 as well that we've written. So pop that on your feedback form, we'll send that over to you. And if we can, if there's anything that you're struggling with, we'll send over a video so that you can watch it, and we'll share that with anyone else that they can use as well. Okay, so thanks for joining us today. I hope the session was useful and you're able to use your meters for some more advanced types of measurements. They're going out and doing some industrial measurements maybe. And as I said, if you do have any questions, then please contact us. Have a wonderful Christmas and we'll see you soon.